Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. It is Wednesday, September 3rd. I just cannot believe the year has flown so quickly. We just started, and here we are. I do have a guest today. September is Suicide Awareness Month, and there's so much for us to talk about as it applies to what's going on with us and our families. And I really want us to delve a little deeper into why we don't talk about these things, why we don't talk about anxiety and depression, why we don't talk about the signs that we see, not just for our children and our family members, but for each other. Everywhere that I have gone in the last several months, that's the topic that comes up for me. People stop me and say, how can I get help for so and so? What can I do to help this one? What can I do to help that one? What can I do to help myself? Because my thoughts are, dark and deep as a direct result of things that are going on in my family. And oftentimes we don't, it's not a thing. We smile, we have a facade. There's no one that we can confide in. And people will not know until we have a complete breakdown. I have seen that happen too, including in my own family. Hell, if I am honest, there were times that right after my mother passed away, I believe, and in the year following that, I came close to crashing and burning myself, but for the grace of God, my husband, my family members, my sisters, and a good therapist, because I fought against having a therapist for a long, long time. And no matter how much we think that we have it all together, and no matter how much we pretend that we have it all together, it's an interesting space to be in. And so that's why, good morning, Bobby Carr, that's why vulnerability is important. I'm not saying go on social media and tell the whole world, or you could if you want to, because then people, when they approach you, will understand that you are going through something and not just think that you're strange, or you just don't care. But find somebody that you can talk to. My main concern, though, are for our young ones, the millennials who are in their late 20s, early 30s. I'm seeing a spike in that. I'm seeing a spike in them and how they feel as if life is untenable because of the different things that have been going on. They went to school, came out of school, got jobs, and then all of a sudden the jobs were swept from underneath them, and they're not sure what they want to do. So there's that. So we're doing that today. Tomorrow is the Love Is segment, and then on Friday we'll do something else. But my producer is working. I did interview yesterday for season 4 of the podcast a fantastic person. I cannot wait for you to hear this. She should be my season opener because the things that she discussed. What really? What's happening here? The things we discussed just impacted me on a personal level, and I'm sure it will impact you too once you listen to it. Because as always, we curate the kinds of shows that we believe we want to hear. You will want to hear. So what keeps some of us sane? You'll see us in the gym. You'll see us take a good brisk walk, makes us feel better. We talk to each other about, what's going on and kind of get it off of ourselves. I have a standing date with one of my dear friends where we go and have pho once a week. No telling which day it's going to be, but they know we're coming when we're coming. And, trying to get some sleep. So all of those things matter. We can't fix everything in every way, but we can certainly try around, what that looks like. So, and there are folks who have been in our community who have been lauded and given all kinds of awards and treated well. And then something happens in their families that drops them flat on their faces, and then all of a sudden they can't seem to find their way back into society because there were underlying issues, underlying things that were going on that they never expressed or talked about. It was always smile, 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 look at the camera, flash, smile at the camera, flash. This is where we are, right? And so it becomes when something knocks us, then we just kind of disappear off the scene, and then people are wondering, where are they? What's going on there? Good morning, Jana Malice. Thank you, darling. Thank you so much. Sometimes on the Facebook feed, I don't see your comments until after the show is over. So, there's that. I'm going to do a little bit of national and local news before my guest comes on. But let me look at good morning, David, Marguerite, Melissa. Yeah, David said the world is the rockiest I have ever seen. I agree. I agree, David. And I this morning at 1 o'clock. Good morning, Laura and Fee and Beatrice. I see you all. This morning at 1 o'clock, I noticed that my father and one of my sisters were talking to each other via text. And so I said, "Why the hell are you all up this time of the morning? I only got up to go potty." And my sister called me, and we talked for 2 hours from midnight until 2 o'clock, and we just got caught up and began talking about the things that are going on around us. How do we navigate through all of these things? How do we stay safe? All of that. Good morning, Shaquilla. Good morning, Jasenia. And so it is important that you have someone to talk to. Please, I am begging you. And if there is no one on earth that can talk to you. The other day, one of my old radio listeners sent me a text message, and I could feel the angst in her writing. And so I began reaching out to her and talking to her, and she shared with me what was going on. And we walked through, what she could possibly do. And yesterday morning, I randomly picked up the phone and called her. I said, "I'm just checking in to see how you're doing." And she says, "Oh my God, I was just thinking about you because we worked it out. It's going to be all right. I'm enjoying myself right now. Blah, 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 blah." And so sometimes it only takes a little bit of conversation with folks, and they don't have to be in your immediate circle, but folks who have met you along the way that you can talk to, right? Sometimes my messenger box inbox blows all the way up. um, and I go in there and I talk to people. Sometimes it's me. I said to a friend of mine the other day, as I was looking for therapists, I said, what do the people who are public figures or in high spaces in government and industry do when they need a therapist? It's difficult for them to find one in their local area. I'm telling you, I've had folks call me, "Cleaning lady, this thing is lopsided. I don't even know how the hell that happened." Okay, but we're gonna figure that out. Anyway, my cleaning lady, forgive me. Um, the They don't know who to talk to because they don't trust that the therapist that they talk to, even though the therapists are aware that what they say can cause harm. If they repeat and they're not supposed to repeat what is said to them, sometimes that happens too. And so they're looking for people outside of where they live that they can talk to kind of help them navigate. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. So let me cover the national and local news. Well, yesterday, David Alexander and I were on talking, and there was some speculation that folks hadn't seen the president in God knows how long, and could it be, and could it happen? And he shows up yesterday in a news conference and talked about moving one thing from Colorado to somewhere else, and then he dug in. What he really wanted to talk about was this. President Donald Trump on Tuesday again took aim at Chicago as he suggested federal intervention is needed to combat crime. Trump pointed to gun violence in the city over Labor Day weekend as 8 people were killed and more than 50 injured. Chicago is the worst and most dangerous city in the world by far, Trump wrote on his social media platform. Pritzker needs help badly. He just doesn't know it yet. I will solve the crime problem fast, just like I did in D.C. Chicago will be safe again soon. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat, had held a news conference at 4 o'clock. I watched that news conference, and listen, Pritzker said, "Look at here. I'm going to speak to you in the vernacular look at here. I'm tired of playing cat and mouse with you. You say you want to do something. We only know from people inside the White House that are giving us information in the clandestine way, and folks who have a clear understanding. So there are people, in other words, J.B. Pritzker says, there are people in your own camp that are telling on you. And I am giving you the vernacular. He says, so let me just explain to you how we know that you have sent armed troops already to Illinois. We know where the armed troops are. We know what your plans are to do it." And he said, "I'm not playing this game with you. You were supposed to collaborate with me. You have not done anything. We have not gotten any phone calls except one terse one that went to someone in my government, and it just said troops are coming to Chicago." And what Pritzker did, which I'm not sure many people picked up, was essentially tell the people of Chicago, stay home. Stay home. They're coming. We're not going to allow. We don't want them here. But this is what we're seeing. So we're going to stay behind home. You know they're coming in. Blah 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 blah. Then the mayor of Chicago. Let me tell you something. History is going to be either kind or unkind to those who stood in the gap, because this is the time where you can't be milk toast. You can't be, oh my God, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. When you are in leadership, this is the time now to stand up and make your voice heard. Right now, Muriel Bowser is catching hell from every end and angle because they believe she capitulated to what was going on against the people because she didn't want the strife and whatever to come towards her. This is what I'm seeing and reading in the news. This is not Andrea speaking. So the mayor of Chicago got on that podium and said, let me tell you something. It is a deliberate attempt to get folks here in Chicago. We've been telling you for years. Biden helped us to bring the what we needed to get help. The guns are coming in from Louisiana. The guns are coming in from Mississippi. The guns are coming in from all these red states. He said, we've taken thousands of guns off the street. And for every 1,000 we take off, every 2 we take off, 400 more shows up. This is a deliberate attempt to keep Chicago in a place where it feels like it's unsafe. We're being set up here. He said, and then you took away over $800 million that we were supposed to get in funding. So we're headlocked here because we can't even help to get the gun violence intervention in the streets. But you keep having these guns coming into Chicago purposefully. These guns are being fed into Chicago purposefully, and they're coming from these red states, baby. So you can see that in Chicago, the governor and the mayor are working in lockstep with each other. You can see in Chicago that the governor and the mayor are saying that we are going to use all the intel that we can get to ask all the questions to make sure that the people are safe here, right? And to warn the folks, listen, they said, because if they were coming in to put out the criminals, that would have been one thing. He said, but quite frankly, that when they come into Chicago and other spaces like that, they're taking women and children and off the street, folks going to school, all sorts of things. So he said, I'm telling you all, don't believe the hype and make sure that we as a people are okay as you move and go about. So that's happening right now. I don't know when. The Governor Pritzker is already very aware that there are troops already in Illinois. They're stationed in certain places around the state. And he glibly said, listen, your own people are telling us. They're giving us intel because you're not telling us. And so we're asking, and we're doing this on the condition of anonymity. This is getting on my last nerve. My last nerve, Jesus. My last nerve. I can't stand it. Hold on, y'all. I know I'm live. I just can't stand this crooked thing looking at me. There we go. I feel much better. Anyway, so there we are. That's what's happening right now. And so is Chicago next. And then amid rumors that the 79-year-old had died after several days without a public appearance, he shut down the speculation ahead of an Oval Office announcement September 2nd. The topic of Trump's health had been a cause of concern amid a slight decline in appearances and a recent cryptic statement the president himself made about his faith. I want to try and get to heaven if possible, Trump said during an August 19th appearance on Fox and Friends. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. Less than a week later, Trump's right hand had noticeable discoloration in photos taken at an August 25th White House briefing, which some online users considered an indication of a more serious health issue. Others pointed out that his lack of public appearance in the last week, opting to not speak to reporters while leaving the White House on August 30th, could indicate his declining health. So they're sitting here doing a death watch on the president of the United States. I don't know why. Right. So we will see what's going on there. This one was from NBC Philadelphia, and the original one was from abcnews.com. A landslide wiped out a village in Sudan's western region of Darfur, killing an estimated 1,000 people in one of the deadliest natural disasters in the African country's recent history, a rebel group controlling the area said late Monday. The mountains, after days of heavy rainfall in late August, the Sudan Liberation Movement Army said in a statement. Initial information indicates the death of all village residents, estimated to be more than 1,000 people. Only one person survived, the statement read. This was on CNN.com. And, Sudan is embroiled right now in civil war, and the country's in an upheaval. Folks who were born and raised there opted not to go back there. I do believe this government tried to or sent some folks that they removed from the country um, to Sudan, in that war-torn country. And I remember some of those folks fighting, like, first of all, we're not from Sudan. We are not going there. And so I don't really know. There's so much news going on at one time. We're trying to navigate all of it at once. So I will do a little bit more digging and find out exactly where those people ended up going. Two Florida pastors were arrested after peacefully protesting the removal of a Black History Matters street mural in St. Petersburg. According to Fox 13 Tampa Bay, Reverend Andrew Oliver of Allendale United Methodist Church and Reverend Benedict Atherton Zeman of the Unitarian Universal Church of St. Petersburg were arrested after sitting directly on the mural to block Florida Department of Transportation workers from painting over it. Police said both men were repeatedly warned to move before being arrested and charged with pedestrian obstruction and hindering traffic. They began to protest after Senate Bill 1662 was signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis in June, prohibiting any form of political expression, including street murals on state-controlled transportation facilities. Critics say the law is part of a broader effort by DeSantis and Republican allies to target expressions of diversity and inclusion. This was BINNnews.com. President Donald Trump is planning to announce, excuse me, the relocation of U.S. Space Command headquarters from Colorado to Alabama, according to media reports, the latest move in a years-long tussle over the military space program. The planned September 2nd announcement would reverse a move by President Joe Biden to overturn Trump's 2021 decision to move Space Command to Alabama. Biden opted to keep the military's newest combatant command in Colorado, which has been the temporary headquarters since the military space program was established in 2019. Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville and other state leaders had pushed to make Alabama the permanent home of Space Command, battling with Biden and his administration. Good morning, Winetta. Good morning, Barrett. Oswald Barrett. He says, suicide is real. In my business, we see it regularly. So devastating to the families because you're at work with a funeral home. In our African American community, the numbers are lower than other ethnicities. So sad. Good morning, Winetta. I'll see you on the 20th. Good morning, Iola and Eleanor. I see you guys. Nikita, good morning, darling. Good morning, Teresa Brown Paris. I see you all here. Congress returns from recess as government shutdown deadline looms. So we have another deadline shutdown looming on September 30th. As lawmakers finally return to the Capitol after a 6-week break, perhaps the most critical legislative item looming is the deadline to fund the government before October 1st, or the government will shut down, given the political reality that funding the government will require a heavy dose of bipartisan cooperation. Top Democratic leaders, Senator Chuck Schumer and Rep. Hakeem Jeffries, have demanded bipartisan talks with President Donald Trump and GOP leadership to plot a path forward on funding. That was 6abcnews.com. Of course, a federal judge ruled that in California that what President Trump did, his deployment of troops to LA violated federal law. See, the law is coming so far behind the movement. So the courts say no. He says, I don't give a rat's to Ratatouille, and they go ahead and do whatever they want to do. And then the federal law, so it's like they're playing, it's like the government is 3 steps ahead of the laws that were put in place in this country. So while there are 3 branches of government, as you are recognizing by now, no one's listening to the federal judges. Judges are being threatened. Children are being threatened. All the things are going on at one time. And so things are happening despite what we know to be illegal or against the law, or whatever the thought may be, and we're here. And so we have to think this thing through around, if we know that these things are going to happen anyway, how do we as citizens protect ourselves for what we see happening here? Whew. A 42-year-old Texas man is facing murder charge in the shooting of an 11-year-old boy after the victim and his friends banged on the suspect's door late Saturday night in what police described as a ding-dong ditch prank that has been trending on TikTok and other social media platforms. Leon Gonzalo Jr. was arrested and booked at the Harris County Jail on Tuesday morning, charged with one count of murder, according to Harris County court records. The shooting unfolded around 10:55 p.m. on Saturday at a home in southeast Houston, Texas, according to the Houston Police Department. This is abcnews.gov.com. I'm sorry. Then the Proud Boys are calling for Pam Bondi's resignation for seeking to dismiss their $100 million lawsuit. Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Justice Department are now facing blowback over their effort to block a lawsuit from members of the far-right Proud Boys who are seeking financial reimbursement for their criminal cases and imprisonment for offenses stemming from the January 6, 2021 Capitol riots. The Proud Boys January 6 rioters who met in a social media X Spaces gathering last month are calling for Bondi's resignation after the Justice Department filed a motion in federal court in Florida last week, asking the judge to dismiss a civil lawsuit filed by Enrique Tarrio, Zachary Rail, Dominic Pezzola, and other Proud Boys. All the men were imprisoned for their roles in the riot before President Trump pardoned them on the day he was inaugurated for his second term. Baby. Baby. Whew. Uber has partnered with local nonprofits Achievability and the Ogans Avenue Revitalization Corporation, OARC, in order to help them help them get around amid SEPTA's service cuts. So Uber is offering free rides to seniors amid the SEPTA cuts. The goal of Uber's senior ride program is to ensure that seniors are able to get to essential things like doctor's appointments, according to a press release. The release states that 20% of the population of Philadelphia is over the age of 60. That's 316,000 people. This innovative partnership is a prime example of how the private sector and community organizations can connect to fill critical gaps to support neighbors, State Rep Morgan Cephas said in Philadelphia in a statement. By providing a reliable transportation alternative, we're helping ensure older Philadelphians can maintain their independence and dignity while preserving their quality of life. So, if you are a senior, 60 years and older, Uber has partnered with two nonprofit organizations to give you free rides to go to the doctor, to go to the supermarket, to go to the pharmacy. Please take advantage of it. Don't let it just sit there, okay? I am assuming you have to prove that you're 60 and over because we already know wherever there's stuff to give away, there's always some shenanigans happening. So we're here. Good morning, China Soul Food. Good morning. The first human case of West Nile virus is in Delaware County for 2025 has been identified. And so, yeah, there's happening. I'm also noticing that more COVID is on the rise again. And people are getting sick, like sick as a dog sick. This is not like getting COVID and then I'm just kind of sitting here and, kind of waiting through the time. People are getting deathly ill again with it. And so they've been talking about different strains that have been coming out that have been identified. And we're just kind of moseying along, not really doing anything about it, right? So again, if my sisters were traveling this weekend, they both had their masks on while they're getting into the airports and getting into the plane. It's a lot. It's a lot. So let me see. Good morning, my darling. Laverne says, good morning. First day of school for me and my babies. Yes, yes, yes. I think grandson number one, his first day of school is today. My husband and I usually go and see him the second day off. So that'll be our thing tomorrow. Marguerite said, he said Miss Bowser has been amenable to what he is doing. And he also mentioned in all of the 2026 events happening in Philly. I won't be surprised if he tries to push his way here. We are the FAFO people. Listen. Good morning, Dennis. Good morning, Tamara. And so let me allow my guest in. Good morning, my darling. Lord.
Good morning. How are you?
Drinking my water and minding my business.
Listen, breathing on schedule.
That sounds like something Tiffany says. Laverne says the COVID tests aren't picking it up because it's a different strain. So whatever it is that it's testing for, it's a different strain. Remember, COVID continues to mutate, and so as it mutates, we have to keep up with it. Hold on one second, Mary Alyssa May. Oh Lord. The top 5 financially distressed states. Texas is the most financially distressed state in the country, followed by Florida, Louisiana, Nevada, and South Carolina. The states that are best off, that honor goes to Hawaii, followed by Vermont, Alaska, Oregon, and New Mexico. So you notice that the folks that are struggling are in the states that you all would consider red. All right, Mary Alyssa May, it's Suicide Awareness Month, and I feel like you're becoming a regular guest on this show, but I really do like talking to you, and I like the way that people. Someone texted me yesterday after the show and said, "I love these segments because everything is made plain, plain. Like we
Mhm.
understand exactly what it is. There's no flowery word. There's no, just letting people what's happening." So let me introduce you to the folks who have never met you before.
Okay.
Um, Oh, it's Wednesday. Lord help me, Father. Abraham had many sons. Mary E. May is a relationship therapist with a keen ability to facilitate healing for youth, teens, and adults that require a pathway to work towards strategies to deal with violence and trauma when it manifests in their lives. In addition to being a passionate therapist with over 25 years of experience, Mary is also an innovative trainer, educator, presenter, and public speaker. We're going to talk further dive into suicide prevention by sharing more insight and tools that affirm life and foster resilience, Lord, and hold space for those who feel unseen. She will also discuss suicide prevention among the following groups: senior citizens. I never thought about that, Mary Email. People in the LGBT community, adults and
Mhm.
children, veterans and rural residents. Let's go. Lord
Let's
have
go.
I before when the show started this morning, I began by talking about anxiety, depression,
Mhm.
dealing with life things that feels overwhelming to many of us, and what that looks like in our daily lives, how we cover it up um, by pretending all is well.
Mhm.
And I am noticing a darkness around me with just folks in general, everyday folks who are having dialogue. I was talking to my youngest sister at 1 o'clock this morning, and we were just talking about all the people who are going through things, the
Mhm.
devastation, and it's so bad that they feel like there's no voice to it, and
Mhm.
so they kind of sit in corners until we wake up one day and hear. So with September being, and there's a question coming. Maybe about 5 years ago, I got a call from one of my friends who said there's a sister in her church, 62 years old, speaking
Mhm.
of senior citizens,
Mhm.
who was showing up to church. She was a part of every ministry. She was helping to raise funds for everybody. She had a great 6-figure job. She was mentoring and motivating, inspiring, doing all sorts of things. And this particular Sunday, she went home and took her life.
Mhm.
Her brother at her funeral said, "You all were so busy accepting all the love and the money." He said, "You all never noticed in this big old church filled with thousands of people just how lonely she was." He said, "My sister was lonely. She had no one to go home to. She had no
Mhm.
children. She was going to the lunches, and no one ever said to her." He said, "And I just feel so badly." And they all sat in that church in dead silence.
Mhm.
How many more of her exist, and what other signs are we looking for? What should we be looking for when someone is struggling? Because we smile, we say good
Right.
morning. I said that yesterday morning. I know we're going through, but smile and say good morning to the people. They don't have to know all you, but just smile and say good morning. But we need a cachet of people that we can talk to, that we trust.
Mhm.
When you don't have that, Mary E, what do they do? What are the signs we should be looking for?
So before like I frame into the signs, let's set the conversation to understand how we define people by the labels.
And this is why you're
So
becoming a regular guest. Because, yes, go ahead, Mary. Go ahead. Tell the people.
We define by the labels and by the actions that people are doing. So it's like if they have all of these titles, that like this person as you described, serving in all of these ministries, but we never take the pulse on understanding what does that person do when the world is silent? Who's loving on their mind, body, and spirit when the world is silent? Like, yes, they have all of these accomplishments, be it their degrees, be it the business, be it that they travel, be all of these things. But the individual beyond all of those labels is a human person that's breathing. And some of those things are great accomplishments, but did they accomplish those because of the voice that they choose to carry? Or was it the voice that was given to them that they needed to uphold a presence in the community, in their family, in their, whoever they're important to? And when do they take the time to just sit in silence, to sit and embrace who they are? Who is there when they say, I am confident, I am love? What is their I am statement outside of the labels when no one else is around?
What is
And
I am statement outside of the labels? Yes. Go ahead.
because when we consume ourselves about how it is that we create ourselves within these social constructs, things that have been like layered into how we're supposed to believe, what practices are supposed to do, all of the things, then we're always like chasing this standard of life that really, especially like we're 2025, things that worked in 1925, it's a different conversation. It's layered with a different understanding and intonation on how we just simply want to be. And so, what that looks like is people who are constantly on the go, the open ended conversation will be, how do you reset? How do you like what's been the hardest thing for you lately? And then you as the person asking the question, be totally silent. Make sure that your body is open, that you're not all arms closed, face gripped, or like rushing them to answer. We're always quick to rush somebody into responding without really listening to what they're saying, because their body language, their actions, their schedule, and all of the performative things that they know they need to respond so that you will accept them are the very key things that we end up having blinders on and not realizing that this person is hurting. This person is still grieving. And yes, give them grace. If they lost their job 5 years ago, they lost their partner, it was a tragedy in their family, fire, car accident, whatever. People need grace. There's no time frame on healing. There's no time frame on those things that you have accomplished. And when, I mean, there is a time frame when you're working towards certain goals, but sometimes we overpower ourselves with very strict time frames that doesn't allow us that breathing room. So when the mark is moved and a new challenge has come because we've taken that opportunity to step into our fear and make it success, we don't give ourselves the grace that each step that we take, we're learning something new, not only about that opportunity, but about ourselves. But the world around us criticizes us. And because we take that criticism, when we choose to sit still, that criticism becomes loud. And that criticism becomes the driving factor of how you push or how you isolate moving forward. So we go both sides, continually.
What is this thing that I've been saying this for years? When I say, when someone introduces me to somebody, they say, this is so and so. She has a degree
Mhm,
in such and such and such.
mhm,
She's a lawyer. She's a this. She's a that. She's a. We're always described by the labels that has been ascribed to us.
mhm,
When can we just ever say, my name is, and it's so funny because I go into rooms and people go, what do you do? Everything, right? My
mhm.
name is. Just say my name is and sit in what your name is.
Because your name has meaning. Your name has meaning. One of my biggest pet peeves, and of course, I love my mother, rest her soul. She lives through me every day. But one of the biggest pet peeves that I had with my mother as I grew into this space of, being a clinician and so forth, is that she had this one girlfriend who was a doctor. And I'm like, and her name is, I'll just say her name is Mary. Her name is Mary. Why
Mhm.
does she have to be Dr. Mary to everybody that you introduce? She's your best friend. She's your confidant. She's your heart. She knows where bodies are. Like she knows all of the things. Can she just be Mary? Why
Mhm.
does she have to be the doctor? If
Mhm.
she chooses, if the individual chooses
Mhm.
to identify with their label, then allow them, but allow them to just be in a space where they don't have to be on. We're
Right.
always trying to be on and proving ourselves. You don't have to prove yourselves when you're operating in your God assigned gift. Your gift will make its space and it will prevail. However, you have to really just eliminate the labels.
Yeah. It's a conversation that I have with my husband all the time about the labels that we throw around, and as a direct result of the labels, then we feel like we have to live a certain lifestyle to prove that we are, and we're just always buttoned up and, always looking perfect. That speaks of repression to me, truly, right?
Mhm.
And so when that is happening, and then we go further in our families to disintegrate the people who we think aren't special enough because they don't have a college degree or they don't have a label ascribed to them. We denigrate our own families. We destroy ourselves when we do stuff like that, right? So you talked about living in the label, right? And
Mhm.
floating in the label. What happens when you just cannot be yourself publicly or privately because you have to constantly stay in that label?
You're always running for an escape. You're always running for or trying to create this space that probably exists but it doesn't exist. Or people say, oh my god, vacation was so great, I didn't have to have my cell phones or whatever. Before you go on vacation, turn the phone off, turn TV off, allow yourself to just embrace just being and have a close network if that's possible, that you trust, that you can talk about anything when there's no judgment. You could just really just be you. Like you could be naked, if you sense, metaphorically
Or physically, because remember
or
when we were traveling
physically.
across the
I
country
was gonna say,
last year, and I kept talking about the Depends diapers, and they were cracking up. And people were inboxing me privately, going, "Girl, you making some sense. If I travel long distance, I'm gonna wear my put your Depends on. If you're gonna be, and listen, I'm not advertising Depends. Let me just call it adult diapers,
right.
right? But people were so shocked that there was no facade there. My God, if I have to pretend to be something else every time I am out in public or private, then I'm literally imprisoning myself. And I'm using myself as an example. I'm
Right.
literally imprisoning myself. I free myself by
Mhm.
being myself. There's an Indian statue in the Native American statue. They called it Indian statue in Wissahickon Park, and he sits on a ledge. Huge
Okay.
statue.
Is
And
this the one that you were trying to climb the other
yes,
day?
I was trying to climb with this, and they looked at me, and I turned around and realized she was recording me at one point, and that's how I ended up posting it, because I was literally sitting there going, if and I started to put my leg up to climb up into his lap to sit in his lap so I could oversee, and they thought I was crazy as hell. But this is who I am as a person, and for me, it's not about being in the public eye, so I don't want the public to talk about me. You understand what I'm saying? How
Right.
do we get people to feel free enough to just be themselves, whether it looks crazy or not?
So that comes with a layered response, because the reason, like, our country is so shameful. Like we said, with clothes or not. And I'm sure some people were like, oh my God, no clothes. Da, 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 da. Our country is the only country that has this set of values that nakedness has shame connected to it. The only country. You go on vacation somewhere, people are at the pool with all things,
Yeah.
free, and nobody is saying, oh my God, cover up, or, anything like that.
Mhm.
So we got to eliminate the shame. So when you think about how you sit and characterize individuals, we have to sometimes take the lens off of what our personal values and rituals are
Mhm. Mhm.
and allow that person to just kind of just
Be.
be free in their space. If they're coloring outside the
Mhm.
lines, which I love to color outside the lines, when you color outside the
Mhm.
lines and you're not in that rigidity, all of that depression, all that anxiety, all that overwhelm, all that performative type action, it disappears. because
Yeah.
it no longer, you have to have that confidence to know that your voice unapologetically can really give you the footprint to be unique. And being unique is not a crime. One of the examples, I guess, in unique that you use is that when you go out in the public, if you need to wear your mask and you're the only one with the mask on, it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Like if
Yes.
you're the only one with the mask, it's okay if you're the
Mhm.
only one with confidence. It's okay if you choose to take your shoes off in the middle of the park and recenter with the earth, with the grass
Mhm.
and the soil and all of that.
Mhm.
But you have to know that it's okay for you, as opposed to seeking a response from somebody
Validation from
else,
someone.
a
Absolutely.
validation. It's like we need the validation when we're empowering people who are thinking about, choosing to take their lives for whatever reason, that the things that they have contributed have value. People learn from them, people seek those things from them. However, we have to ensure that the person that we're pulling from is not feeling depleted, because there are other stressors that we don't give them breathing room to comfortably let out and talk. That's why art is expression, writing is expression, dance is expression,
Mhm.
exercise is expression. All of those things we have to really take the shame, the labels, and begin to interrogate it, pull that layers of the onion away so that we can get to the core of who we are as an individual. And if our individual voice doesn't sound like those in our circle, it's okay.
Yeah.
But then we also may need to choose a different circle.
Circle. Right. So here's the other question. What are the signs now? How does how does this anxiety and depression show up in people who may have suicidal ideation? Is it anger? Is it mean girl? Is it silence? Is it deep sadness? What are the signs that we should look for within our families, within ourselves first? Because I think a
Right.
lot of people are walking around with anxiety and depression and masking it with alcohol, with marijuana, with
Hmm.
um, just being unkind to people, all of the
Hmm.
stuff. Talk to me about what those signs look like in your profession that you have seen thus far.
So let's break down the mystery that anxiety and depression are not kissing cousins, because they are. They are kissing cousins because they have the same symptoms and behaviors that overlap. So you could be anxious and only anxious and not necessarily depressed. But if you are experiencing the various levels of depression that exist, is derived or developed and manifest and loved on from how you manage or don't manage your anxiety. So they're kissing cousins because they play off of each other without getting into like the clinical jargon. But the behaviors, if you're a smoker, what is it that's causing you to smoke at that particular time? If you feel like, oh, I have to have my cup of coffee, what is that cup of coffee like really, really doing? Is it really like, making you healthy, making you more alert, like any of those things? We're not going to talk about the collagen because I'm not here to talk about the nutrition that it impacts, but like the behaviors that you do as a ritual or pattern, are you doing it because you're angry? And when we think of anger, anger is the destination. Depression would be the destination. Anxiety would be the destination. Like that's the thing that we want to label it in. Again, we're labeling because we need to understand those different things. But before we get to those things being the outcome, like let's use anger, you are irritated, you are avoidant, you are dismissive, you criticize, you may bully, you may it's so many different behaviors that you do to kind of dance around.
Mhm.
And once those things manifest over and over again,
Mhm.
again, we're going back to that I am statement. How do you identify? What does your trauma narrative look like? What does your grief look like? What do your finances look like? How those things interchange into your mindset and your thought and how you're moving about throughout the days manifest into anger, because it's September the 2nd, September the 3rd. I was supposed to have accomplished XYZ by now. Okay, well, you didn't. But what have you learned about XYZ goal that you didn't know
Mhm.
February 1st? You've learned something because you stepped into it. We
Yes.
go negative, we default into the negative first, or what we haven't accomplished, and we dwell there, as opposed to acknowledging the negative. We're angry all the time. People saying that, we're always avoiding, we don't go out anymore, we isolate, all these things, as opposed to staying on the negative. Why is that? What has been the most difficult thing for you to kind of manage, and really give them that space to respond? And when they respond, don't jump down on, well, why you think that? Because you got this XYZ car. We have to be human.
Yeah.
And we have to recognize that the way the world is evolving, we can't get stuck on a destination. The same way with medical situations. We hear that diabetes, cancer, whatever the diagnosis, that's the destination. But that's the destination in the sense that now that you know what the diagnosis is,
What
again, this
can you
applies
do
to the
to
anger,
change?
and
Right. Mm-hmm.
now you engineer backwards the treatment plan to understand your behaviors, the actions, the foods, the people you're around, the environments that kind of generate you leading into that being the destination. That's not what we do. We're wired to say, oh, the doctor said I got cancer, I'm about to die tomorrow. No, you're not. You could just change like a 2 millimeter shift in your diet, your activities,
Mm-hmm.
your hygiene, like all different things, and your wellness meter will go up. Your energy will go up. Your willingness to thrive and live will all increase to a capacity that you're like, okay, my life is valuable. I want to be here. I want to breathe on schedule. I choose to change the things that's holding me back, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to, I need my seafood, girl. Like, don't be taking my seafood, or I
Right.
need
Right.
my this particular food. You
Yeah.
trying to make it where I can't eat anything that I enjoy. We
Mhm.
kill ourselves by the actions of the things that we
And the
do, eat, and
excuses
breathe,
that we make,
and
right?
the
Because
excuses that we make.
yeah, I have a friend who was diagnosed with cancer over 20 years ago.
Mhm,
It's a hard one that has taken many lives around her. But
mhm,
you know why I believe she's still here? And I mean, her treatment has been rough. It has been her will to live. She refused to have anyone talk death around her,
mhm,
to make her feel like she's not going to be here. And so she continues. Good morning, Zakia and Zaki and Asa. And so she continues to work in the path. And I mean, the human brain is a phenomenal thing, because she has all these side effects now from the 5 times she's been on chemo, the however many surgeries that she's had, but she continues to be here, right?
mhm,
So it's what we tell ourselves. How do we want to? So when someone
mhm.
says to you, you are diabetic, and you say, but I gotta eat this thing because this is what I want, versus saying, I know I love this thing, and if I
Mhm.
take a small slice of this thing and then I don't touch this thing again for another 30 days. It's making an adjustment, but it's not
Right.
just thumbing your nose up completely at, I got to have what I want to have kind of thing. You can't get the results if you don't, put yourself in the mind frame of taking the actions to do what needs to be done.
And
Not
taste buds
easy.
are temporary, but our lives are monumental.
Taste buds are temporary, but our lives are monumental. Yes, yes. I went to breakfast the other day with my husband, and I said to the guy, "Can you bring me my breakfast and bring me a to-go container?" And I learned this from my friend Sharon, who was, I cut everything in half and put half in the to-go container, and I look at what's in front of me, and go, "Oh my God, there's still a ton of food." You don't
Mhm,
realize, because your brain is conditioned to say, "This is enough food for me to eat. I'm going to eat this." Blah 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 blah. And
mhm,
so we have to and listen, when I'm having this conversation with all of you, I am literally talking to myself too. I need you to understand, this is not just
mhm,
me saying do XYZ. I am the example that I give to you every single day when I get up, because I recognize I could have exercised privately. I could have had the conversation privately about diabetes. I could have had the conversation privately about hypertension, but I recognize the responsibility that comes with this microphone is opening up my damn mouth and saying, I too struggle with these things. Walk with me. You understand what I'm
mhm,
saying?
mhm,
So I think the reason why uh, anxiety and depression is not, because when you're vulnerability allows for you to share openly, get that stuff off of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not for people to be voyeurs and to go, oh my God, she blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
but to say, I'm not the only one struggling with this. Mother is sharing it. Miss Mary is sharing it. Such and such is sharing it. We can do it together. We can band together and do this work. It will save our lives. I am
Right.
looking at 29-year-olds and 30-year-olds and 35-year-olds who are talking about taking their lives,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're losing their jobs. They can't figure it out. Their relationships are not working out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sad place for them to be in. What do we say to them other than go figure it out? I can't help you. I'm in the same spot too. Like, what do we do? And then on top of that, with all the repression that's happening, heart attacks, and so forget the suicidal ideation over here for a second. The heart
Mm-hmm.
attacks and the strokes that are happening, something is happening with us. And if we don't want to take the time to talk about these things, then we're going to continue to suffer in silence, and it manifests in diseases. It
Correct.
manifests in blood clots. So help me, Mary Elissa May, to help the folks, because I know I'm not just talking to myself. I know you and I are not just having conversations with ourselves. I know
Right.
there are people listening that understands what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. It's so food and health related issues is caused by the foods that we eat. So if you want to avoid lupus and cancer, remove those foods. Or you can say, I'm going to have these foods in moderation and I'm going to deal with the consequences as they may. To me, that's an indirect conversation about how death by suicide is a choice because you choose to eat the things that you know can cause this life threatening health manifestation. But because your taste bud, you think your taste buds are not temporary, you have to have it. You have to be in that crowd that is not suited, like satisfying to the validation of who you are as an individual outside of the label. So it grows and grows. The food that you eat, how it impacts your body, the people who are around you, are they encouraging? Are they supportive? Or are they like, no, girl, let's just go ahead to this crab feast and not think about the side effects of the iodine and how it's going into our body and causing cancer. I don't want to do that. I want to live la vida loca. Do what you want. However, recognize the consequence is whether you are cutting yourselves and isolating and having a plan that you're going to take all of those prescriptions that you have at one time, or you're at the table eating the foods, you're still choosing,
Mhm.
you're still making a choice, and both of them can lead to the same destruction of your independent cells and
Mhm.
be death by suicide.
How do we help people that we can see that we are experiencing that may be dealing with anxiety and anger and just withdrawing themselves from society? I'm looking at a 29-year-old right now. His mother and I are really working hard to help him. We see him sinking. His energy is so low. I hugged him and I was in tears, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're told men are not supposed to cry, men are not supposed to feel X, Y, and Z, men are not supposed to. And when my children call me Mary Alyssa May and they start to talk, I stop everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't even have an answer. I just sit and listen. I just sit and listen. And
Mm-hmm.
the other day it was my oldest son, and he texted me a text. He said, "Mom, thank you. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any. You didn't, I was raging, but you didn't give me. You didn't say you can't say that, or you can't feel that, or you can't."
Mm-hmm.
Because there had to be a space for him to get it out. So I allowed
Mm-hmm.
him to get it out, and he said, "I apologize for how I said what I said,
Mm-hmm.
but I hope you heard what I said," because he was going through something.
Mm-hmm.
And so when our children, oftentimes, particularly as Black parents, we get caught up in the how it is said
Mm-hmm.
versus what is actually said. Are we hearing the pain? Are we hearing the anger? Are we hearing the I'm frustrated? Does that make sense?
And do we want to? We're so busy on trying to hold the rules on how we communicate versus offering that opportunity to just freely speak. And
Mhm.
so for me, be it a teenager and or me working with couples, if they're like, okay, I can see them like boiling up and like, clenching their hands or body language is communicating that they just really want to say something, and I refer to it as, okay, let's load up the clip. Let's load up the clip. You say whatever it is you got to say. Doesn't matter if you think it's going to be disrespectful or whatever. This
Mhm.
is your space to just load up the clip and let it go.
Mhm.
And while you do that, this is me in the professional sense, I'm taking note. But I would recommend, if you allow somebody in the family, you having a family circle conversation or whatever, and somebody is loading up the clip, if you take my term and use it,
Mhm.
fine. Um, just allow them to speak. And if you need to take note, but don't take it personally.
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
take it that you have to correct
Yes.
what their
Say it.
statement
And
is.
don't make it about you. I can't believe you said that. Oh my God, I'm your mother. I'm your sister. I'm your cousin.
Mhm.
I can't believe you talk to me like that. We have to get outside of ourselves and allow people to express themselves. Because, again, to your point, the labels. We're
Mhm.
walking in this facade of labels. You got to be a certain way. You got to speak a certain way. You got to dress a
Mhm.
certain way. You got to talk a certain way. You got to have a certain job. You got to drive a certain car. And nobody is caught up more in it than in our African American communities, I think. But that's because I live within that community. So it could be
Mm.
different in other places too. Let me be clear. But we get
Right.
so caught up, so caught up.
We do.
What, and I mean, it's 7:27. What can we give us some tips now about what can we do to help each other?
So, what we could do to help each other, I'm sorry, like I had my stuff all spread out.
No worries.
What we could do is be sure that we're like saying that your life is valuable just as it is. You don't need to change because who you are matters.
Mhm,
Create in the spaces without the labels and assumptions.
mhm,
Um Identify, like if it's of a service member, your service matters, but so does your life beyond the service. Like, you've carried heavy things and you don't have to carry these things all alone.
mhm,
If you're, an individual who's trying to, identify in some unique community, like you deserve to be fully yourself and acceptable. So it's
mhm,
like, don't minimize someone and say, well, it's just a phase. You're not allowing their voice to be owned. You're not allowing them to understand that,
mhm,
okay, it might be a phase for you,
mhm,
but for them, it's everything. And it's how they define themselves. So it's like recognizing like what that looks like. And you don't know that individual's pain. So you can ask them, help me understand why this bothers you or why this pains you. And
mhm,
again, listen to their response,
mhm,
understand that that's their response. It's not about you, not about what you've done. Nothing about your ego is in their response. You may do some things that trigger it, but recognize, okay, if you recognize those things, let's kind of move differently, like around it. Um, Listen without judgment, validate, offer ways that you can connect them to help, be gentle in their language. And sometimes we think that if we ask the question of do they think about harming themselves? Do they think about suicide? That we're giving that at them as an opportunity. But
mhm,
trust and believe if someone is already there, they're already there. And you asking can break that barrier that they still been trying to be performative in this conversation and trying to figure out like what is the best next thing to do and realize too your limitations. Like you might be the catalyst to help them open the door, but know that where your skill set stops, there's a
mhm,
number, there's a person, there's a resource that you can reach out to that will help you get, them to that next level. Don't take
mhm,
on the ownership that you have to have all the answers
mhm,
because you just want to normalize like what they're experiencing and give them healthy outlets to make it happen, but also
mhm,
connecting them to the resources. The internet never sleeps for a reason. It's a blessing and a curse,
mhm,
but it gives you opportunities to kind of use the 988 phone number if you need to 24/7. If you're a teen, you can use the Trevor Project.
mhm,
If you there's other like 800 numbers that you can kind of connect with
mhm,
because when you normalize like the healthy outlets and you provide that supportive circle, you need to be able to tell them where they could turn to. So for
mhm,
teens, there's the teen line.
mhm,
It's teenlineonline.org. where you could text, phone, and email peer support. I mentioned 988.
Mhm.
The Trevor Project is specifically to support individuals who are LGBTQ
Mhm.
plus youth
Mhm.
and give them like a model for affirming conversations. And then Society for Prevention of Teen Suicide. The
Mhm.
acronym that gives education and parent resources
Mhm.
is SPTSUSA
Say that
dot
again.
org.
FDPS.
SPTSUSA.org.
.org. Okay. Got it. I wrote it all down because sometimes people call and ask for these things again as they're listening in the moment. I thank you.
Thank you.
I recognize that 30 minutes is not often enough, and we're at 7:31 now to go through all of this. But what I'd like to do is encourage you to come back on monthly so we can talk about I'd like to take each group individually,
Okay.
because the largest numbers of STDs are between the young people and the seniors.
And the seniors.
Yes, and the seniors. I never thought about suicide with seniors. How often
Mhm.
do you see that?
Very much so often. If there are like the financial challenges, if they feel like they're a burden, they're causing their loved ones and the care, their children and whomever to need to realign their schedule, they'd rather just not be here to be that additional thing that someone has to do, because they feel like it's a burden.
Mm-hmm.
um it happens more than we think. If someone needs to go to like a supportive living facility and they have to leave their home, that's a trigger. Another diagnosis on top of whatever else they're managing
Mm-hmm.
is also a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, if they, it's just so many things. So many things that are the trigger for seniors. And if their partner or spouse has passed away, that's a big red flag. Like you need to ensure what supports that they have around them, because if they've been partnered for a lifetime commitment or just like a soul, connection with their partner, when if one partner leaves before them, then it's not that they're immediately thinking about death by suicide, but we need to build that loving community around them, because life looks different. When they would start the sentence, their partner used to finish it. Now they don't have that physical presence any longer.
Yeah. You know, you made me think of my father, who every morning sends us a message. And at the end of his message, he says, "Your mom and I will always love you." He talks about my mother in the present tense all the time.
Mhm.
So, one of the things we're doing now is trying to get him to us or to him to make sure that he's okay. And it's a lot. It's a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot. And then, the Medicare was the Social Security was cut down to almost nothing. So as his children, we have been pulling together to make sure he has what he needs monthly.
Mhm.
And I sometimes wonder. You're right. I sometimes wonder. Right.
Mhm.
Um,
And this time of year too, the October through
right. Which is where we're getting
January.
him to us. Right. So he'll spend. Usually he spends Christmases in Jamaica. And then there's four of us, so we'll make sure he's at our houses, so he can travel to come and spend a little bit of time with us. He will not
Mhm.
come to me because he said it's cold as hell. His body just can't deal. So for me, it would always have to be a summer visit kind of thing. But it
Mhm.
takes time. We have to literally work through how do we make sure he's okay. And so we talk to him every single day. I am the worst at it because life over here ain't no crystal stair. And I'm running
Right.
up and down and I'm trying to solve everybody's issues and figure out my own issues and all that other stuff. But when I join in, or he'll send one of my sisters and say, where is your big where on earth is your sister today? Because we haven't seen her in a couple of days. And so then I would jump in and, but we always make sure he's okay. And I wonder how many people have families that are not
Mhm.
able to do this, what I'm talking about,
Right.
because it takes the coordination of four of us, our four husbands, then to consider our own children, our own lives, and to figure out how
Mhm.
we want to. You are absolutely correct. It's a lot.
And we have unresolved stories, is how I'll reframe it,
Yeah.
that at this particular season as a senior citizen, um, if those unresolved stories keep you where you're not connected and not talking, it's another layer that triggers the possible loss of life or the possible thought that, well, they're never going to talk to me anyway, so why am I here? And we don't think about those opportunities. We choose to hold on to the anger or the frustration or the abandonment or whatever the thing or reason is, more than the forgiveness and the grace and learning that people deal with the toolkit that they have. And it might not be the toolkit that you needed, but it's a toolkit that they
That you
had.
have. Yeah. Thank you, my sister. It's always a
Absolutely.
pleasure having a
Absolutely. Same.
conversation with you. So we'll come back again in the month of October. God
Okay.
willing, and the creek don't rise, and we'll have this conversation
Absolutely.
again about something else. Okay. All right. Thank you, my
Absolutely.
sister.
Thank
Talk to you
you.
soon. All right.
Have a
Bye bye.
blessed day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right, guys. It is at the end of another episode of Mornings with Marvel. And we're going to go on and do what we have to do. If there's a subject matter that you want to discuss that we have not talked about here, feel free. I'm getting ready now I'm in the middle of doing interviews for season 4 of the podcast. And I'm telling you, as usual, I'm slicing and dicing and pulling out the conversations that nobody wants to talk about. It's always that way over here, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. For those of you who have been guests already, from season 1 through 3. Thank you so much for, sharing your stories, elevating the thoughts, and making sure that we're okay. Um, so that everybody else can. Okay, this is getting on my nerves. This is why I can't be on live TV because the leaf is coming off. Sharing your story so that people can learn and grow from them. And to those of you who are finding yourselves right now in the darkest of spaces and feel like you have no answer for the things that are going on around you, please remember there's always help. There's always someone. Choose a perfect stranger who you think may not be able to, go back and share your stuff. Choose some. Go to therapy if you can afford therapy. If you have insurance, use your insurance. Sometimes we carry insurance and we don't use it because we don't want anybody in our business. But the truth of the matter is, you choose suicide, then people are going to be in your business, right? And so talk about the things. Choose vulnerability. Choose compassion, choose love, choose grace, and be kind in a world where you can be anything. When someone looks at you and starts talking to you out of the side of my neck, out of your neck, out of their neck, don't make it about you. Don't, I can't believe. Nope. There is some kind of hurt and trauma behind that conversation. There's something that they're not dealing with that causes them to get to where they are. Choose kindness over judgment. Okay? Love to you all. This episode of Mornings with Mother is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye bye. Bye, darlings. Bye. Got 3 things going on here, so I got to stop them all.